Welcome to our talk studio where we're joined by Paul Mwangi and Peter Opondo. Thanks, guys. Great to have you with us as always to discuss the Kibaki succession. And of course, we're looking at the ICC and its impact. Let's begin with the effect, if indeed the charges are confirmed. What does that mean for the careers, specifically of obviously William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta? Paul, let me begin with you.
I think the moment if the charges are confirmed and then they become criminal suspects and accused persons, the first immediate thing will be a loss of glamour. Once you appear on the TV and you're a charged person behind a desk with security around you, there's a lot of the glamour of you as a politician or you as a presidential candidate that immediately goes off. And there is a likelihood that even those who support them now might not see them in the same light again. And I think that would be one of the most immediate effects. The second is whether, again, being accused persons in an international criminal trial, whether the law allows them or not, whether they will be able to sustain a presidential bid and carry themselves as people who can carry the country.
And we said last week that legally there's nothing that prevents them. But aside from the legal issues, there are other issues.
There are the public relations issues, how you look when you're telling the country, I will carry you forward, and then at the same time, in the midst of a campaign, you go into a plane and go behind some security desk and get charged and, on a criminal offense.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I think on the flip side, one would say again that the moment the charges are confirmed, these would solidify their sort of traditional bedrock political support in their areas. So in terms of the effect it would have is that these people will come together and say, we have to rally behind our people. So much as some glamour might be lost in terms of their public profiles, it will give them some solid backing in their backgrounds.
But the impact of that kind of backing in an environment of heavy campaigns, and what would it mean for the campaigns next year, do you think, Peter?
It would mean that the campaigns would be very heated. The country will be a bit polarized in the sense that we have a situation where people from central Kenya are saying our man is being persecuted, so to speak. Same from Rift Valley. And so the dynamics sort of begin to develop in such a way that we have these tensions again in the country.
Paul, let's come to the big hitters right now. What does this mean for, let's look at Prime Minister Raila Odinga. What does it mean for Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka?
For Raila, I see him having mixed fortunes. One, for Rift Valley, I think it is likely that he would totally be devastated in Rift Valley. Not just because the people of Rift Valley have had a relationship with him, and therefore there's a lot of emotion that is in that relationship, and when they fall out, that fallout is also going to be equally emotional. But also, Ruto has shown the capability of being spiteful, so that he's not just angry with Raila, he's also intends to be spiteful, and he intends, whether he will be president or not, his first greatest agenda is to make sure Raila does not become president. And he's going to say what it takes to say to make sure that he galvanizes people on that political thought.
Right.
It might be different for Uhuru Kenyatta, because Uhuru Kenyatta, much as he has shown anger, has not shown spite. And I do not think that his campaign against Raila in Central will have the same kind of spite that Ruto's campaign against Raila in Rift Valley is going to have. So in very many ways, and Raila has never had Central anyway. So there's nothing new that anybody is going to say about
nothing
it.
Different that would
there's
be
nothing different.
I think what is clear at this point in time is that Raila Odinga has lost some political constituency in Rift Valley, which he had. So as he goes towards 2012, he must be cracking his head, where will I get a replacement for this solid vote block that I've lost in Rift Valley? Of course,
a huge block.
His campaign seems to think he still can make inroads, but I think that's self-delusion. I don't think the way Ruto has ratcheted up the rhetoric, Raila can still say he has some political support in Rift Valley.
Let's look at Kalonzo Musyoka and the interesting dynamics here. We had this team of three who seem to be, and it all seems to have fallen apart. What's the likely impact on him?
In the G7 alliance, of course, there are several leaders, but we look at the main person who's hoping to benefit from the ICC process is Kalonzo Musyoka. He will not tell you, but he's hoping that the charges go on, they're confirmed, and then these guys, Uhuru and Ruto, say, okay, we have to give it to Kalonzo. But I don't think they will do that. I don't think...
In making the statement that it's really between me and the Premier, he's as good as saying that
Yes.
he expects them to be
I think
out
he
of the
showed
way.
his hand too early. His political benefit is so blatantly consequential to the misfortunes
Right, of
of
others.
others.
His two partners. So to
Yes,
speak.
and that even they themselves have begun to feel as if he will benefit so much that you don't even trust him anymore, not to be even somebody who will work or pray for that misfortune to happen. And they have kind of started moving away from him.
Who then is the alternative?
The thing we have to say is that the G7 alliance has plan A. Plan A is to go for primaries and probably get the best, which I don't think will happen. Plan B is to have a deal and say we're going to field one candidate. Kalonzo would be hoping it works that way. It will not. Plan C is to go for the alternative candidates. And that's where you have to look at people like Raphael Tuju are coming up, people like Eugene Wamalwa. You have to ask yourself, okay, if matters come to a head and Uhuru Kenyatta is not in the presidential ballot, William Ruto is not in the presidential ballot, who will they be going for? I see they're campaigning on a generational change platform. Now, you begin to ask yourself, if you're campaigning on a generational change platform, who are the likely people? I don't think it's Kalonzo. So we have to think about the other alternative candidates that are there in the race at the moment.
Final thought, especially on the alternative candidates?
Yeah,
Paul?
on alternative candidates, I see a problem of Ruto and Uhuru agreeing on the same philosophy as to the candidate to choose. It's very easy for Ruto to go to Rift Valley with a candidate and say, we are going to vote for this candidate so that we spite this man who turned against us, which has been what he's saying. Uhuru might not be able to do that in Central. He cannot come and give them a candidate and say, vote for this guy so that we spite the other guy. They will possibly want more. They want to say, yes, can this guy be a leader? What does he have?
This is not our agenda.
This is, yes, this is not our agenda.
this?
We want a leader.
Right.
And because of that, the two might have a very big problem actually agreeing on who the candidate is going to be, because their game plans for the future president of Kenya is different. Ruto has his own game plan and Uhuru has his own game plan. And I don't think they have met in the middle about what they
Very
really
quickly, we've got to wind up. Give me the person you think will gain most out of all of this.
I think
Peter,
as
name.
as it stands now, there's actually nobody who's gaining. One would hope, one would believe that Kalonzo believes he would be the winner. But also Raila Odinga believes he's the winner in the sense that he is losing very strong opponents if indeed the charges are confirmed that they don't run for the president. But there is no clear winner at this particular moment.
Do you agree, Paul?
I think the people who will benefit most, without, at the moment it's not possible to put a name to it, but the wild cards.
Okay, those alternative candidates.
Those alternative candidates.
So the Raphael
Tujus,
Tujus, the Wamalwas.
The Wamalwas.
Yes.
So
The
one
Ole
of them is
Kiapis,
going,
all of
one
all
of them
these
is going to
other-
benefit in
Okay.
a major way out of this. We are yet to know who it's going to be.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Another week, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. That's been it right now from our talk studio, but we go right back to the other studio in a moment. We have so much more on the way still. Who Owns Kenya? Consumer Watch, of course, our roundup as well. Stay with Sunday Live.